Bathroom bills have been popping up in state after state lately. You know, the ones that say transgender people can't use the bathroom unless it matches their birth certificate? In other words, you can't pee unless you show your toilet papers. Why are we suddenly seeing so many of these? The politicians pushing them say that they just want to protect people. And you know what? They're right. Stopping trans people from using the bathroom will protect people. But not the people they say. Lawmakers claim that their bills will stop predators and protect children.
When sexual predators find out, all they have to do is say they feel like a woman today and they get to go to the women's restroom.
Even registered sex offenders could follow women or young girls into the bathroom.
Allows grown men to share bathrooms and locker facilities with girls and women.
They're giving a lot of thought to seats, but not toilet seats. Legislative seats. These discriminatory bills don't protect citizens. They protect politicians. Here's how. In 2016, there were about 50 bills introduced in various states that discriminated against trans people. Not just in bathrooms, but in housing, education, employment, and more. And when you look at who introduced those bills, a funny pattern starts to appear. For example, HB 4474 in Illinois, introduced by Tom Morrison. He was up for re-election that year and won. Or HB 1624, introduced by Steve Cookson in Missouri. He was also up for re-election and won. Colleen Gary won her re-election in Massachusetts last year after introducing HB 1320. So did Bob McDermott with HB 2181 in Hawaii. I looked at 197 politicians who wrote, introduced, or co-sponsored trans discrimination bills in 2016. Of them, 3/4 were running for re-election that year. And of the politicians who were running for re-election and introduced discriminatory bills, 96% kept their seat. Let's be clear, this country does not have a problem with trans people committing crimes in bathrooms. What we do have is a lot of politicians trying to figure out a way to pander to their base. If this was a decade ago, they'd come up with some kind of wedge issue like, oh, I don't know, same-sex marriage. That's what they did in 2004, and it worked great. Republicans put marriage equality on the ballot in 11 states and even more in state legislatures, and how did they justify it back then? By claiming that banning gay marriage would protect children.
The children of America have the right to have a mother and a father.
When Massachusetts legalized gay marriage, schools began teaching second graders that boys can marry boys.
And the students are then the recipients of that confused approach to instruction and to education.
And changing the definition of marriage would undermine the family structure.
Sound familiar? They're doing exactly the same thing with bathrooms that they did in 2004 with marriage. Back then, the GOP wove a fantasy about gay marriage being a threat to children, that same-sex couples are dangerous. They can't get away with that anymore, so now those same political forces have turned to the next group that they can weave a scary story about. Trans people who just want to pee. And let's be clear, trans people have been using facilities consistent with their gender identity for decades, and there are no documented cases of any trans person using an inclusive bathroom policy to harass or attack or commit any kind of crime. Banning trans people from bathrooms doesn't make them safer. In fact, if anyone's in danger, it's trans people themselves. A Williams Institute study showed that 70% have been harassed or attacked when trying to use a bathroom. So, if politicians really cared about safety, they'd make bathrooms more inclusive, not less. These bans exist to benefit one group and one group alone. Politicians, overwhelmingly Republican, who are worried about losing their seats and don't mind pandering to unfounded fears. That worked great with gay marriage in 2004. It worked again with bathrooms in 2016. Now, if only these laws could protect citizens as well as they protect the politicians passing them. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments and at Matt Baum on Twitter. For a roundup of what's happening with the week's LGBT issues, check out my YouTube series Weekly Debrief with Matthew, and check out this video that debunks all the myths around bathroom bills. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to see a man about a horse.
Hello.